Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, that is Tim. We talk about horror movies on this show, and this is kind of notable because obviously it's the month of October. We're doing the October-thon, which means we're doing a lot of extra episodes basically. But one of the things that we were building up to for October was this month was going to see the release of new entries in a few franchises. So we worked our way through the entire franchise before we got to this month, so that when we got to the new movie, we'd done the entire thing, and it was kind of like, you know, the season finale on a series of videos. And of course, one of them was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We've done the 7 films that were already existing. I'll make sure there's a link in the corner right about now, somewhere over there next to Tim's head. And you know, we did all them. We started them around May, and we finished just before October, just towards the end of September. So this is going to be the 8th film in that franchise, and that is Leatherface, a prequel movie about the origin of Leatherface, which we kind of got already. We got a prequel to the remake. This is a prequel to the original, not to get confusing. So before I asked him the question, I want to just explain a couple of things. So obviously we'll start spoiler free. We'll give you a spoiler warning somewhere in the middle before we go into it. Well, this is a little insert just to give you the full spoiler warning, because I may or may not in a few minutes time accidentally spoil something in the movie that's quite major, even though I think it's quite obvious. But anyway, full spoilers then. We just sort of gave up on the spoiler free section. It's bad, that's all you need to know. Okay, so back to the previously recorded section of the program. But the two things I want to explain that were kind of going against this, one objectively and one for me specifically, although I think you agree with this. So the first thing is that this movie, as I understand it, was shelved for a couple of years before they released it.
I didn't know that offhand, but you can tell, like, this feels like a movie that was, hey, we don't know what to do with this, and then let's just kind of unceremoniously release it on like VOD.
I think the biggest thing is that Finn Jones, who plays Iron Fist, is in it, and you can kind of tell this was before Iron Fist. That's kind of what shows that there. So that was the first thing going, because that's usually not a good sign. The second thing going against it for me, and I assume Tim's going to agree with this, is that in no way, shape or form did I have any interest in an origin movie, a prequel movie that explained the genesis of Leatherface.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Let me make this clear. I don't want to see an origin movie for Michael Myers. I don't want to see an origin movie for Jason Voorhees. I don't want to see an origin movie for Freddy Krueger. I don't want to see an origin movie for any of these goddamn characters. Not one of them.
Well, one of the reasons why I think these characters work so well is because they're very, like, simple monsters. Like, you don't need an origin story. Like, Leatherface, hey, this is a guy who eats people and wears their skin on his face. Done. Like, what else do you need to know?
And some of them obviously have a lot. Like, Halloween has a little bit of an origin for Michael Myers, but
yeah,
all you need is in that movie. You don't need any more than that, which, one of the things, we do the remake next year. We'll talk about how what that does with more prequel elements and stuff. At least one of the things that this couldn't do versus the Halloween remake is one of the things the Halloween remake did was that it gave us all these characters, all these family members that made Leatherface or Michael the way he was, which was, and different from the original. At least with Leatherface, that was always the case. He was always the way he was because his entire family were always screwed up. There were always this group of hillbillies that were cannibals and awful and whatever else. So I was just going into it. I did not want the premise of this movie at all. That said, beyond the fact that I knew it was a prequel about Leatherface, I actually didn't know what the plot was. Like, I didn't know what did they steal a kid and then they're raising it? Did they this or that? Like, I didn't know what the plot was, so I went in fairly blind in that sense. But so yeah, what is the plot of this? Well, the plot of this, which I always give before I ask Tim the question, because I know he's itching to answer it. He's itching there. I can see him. But the plot of this is that, so young Jed, or Jeb, was it Jeb? Jebediah?
I thought it was Jed.
Yeah, I think it's short for Jebediah though.
Possibly.
They say that later on. Maybe it is both. I mean, Dick's short for Richard, so anything's possible. But he's like a kid, and or his mother, played by Lily Taylor, who, of course, you might know as the mother from the first Conjuring. Funnily enough, I actually watched the movie with her a couple of weeks ago in October. I watched a movie called The Addiction, which is a vampire. It's a black and white vampire movie from the mid-90s that Christopher Walken's also in.
Oh wow!
It's a very art house vampire movie, but it does have a nice tone to it. So I don't know if you're into it. Obviously, she's young. She's like a college student in it. Obviously, it's 20 years old, so it's just different time period. She's playing mums now. This is where we are. So, but yeah. So she's the mother, and she's like trying to train young Jeb into being a killer like the rest of the family, and the police end up getting involved. They can't prove who's done what. But they know enough to say, okay, you know what? This family is unfit for children, so we're taking them away and put them in a hospital, put them in the system, the foster care, and all the rest of it. And then we jump years later, and what I was not expecting is that part of this movie is actually kind of a mystery in that we don't know which person's actually him. Because when they took the kids and put them into foster and all that, they changed all their names, so we don't actually know which one's Leatherface. I mean, you kind of know. Like, if you're a smart viewer, you know exactly which one Leatherface is going to be. But like, it's played as if we don't actually know which one of the crazy people is going to turn out to be Leatherface. So, and the actual plot of the movie is that there's a kind of caused by the mother actually, but there's like a riot at the hospital, the mental hospital, and 4 of the patients kidnap a nurse and go on the run, and one of them is Leatherface. We don't know which one it is yet, and it's kind of the manhunt for them, whilst also the fact that like one of them doesn't actually want to be there, and then obviously the nurse is kidnapped, so it's kind of like a hostage movie almost. Now, did anything I say, and that's most of the movie by the way, obviously there's a bit of Leatherface really towards the end, but that's most of the movie. Did anything I just say to you, this is a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie? Which, to be fair, they didn't call it that, but still.
Yeah. No, I mean, not at all.
Does it feel like it's in that? I actually don't think the premise of the movie's bad. It shouldn't be Texas Chainsaw. It should be, just its own thing.
Whatever random.
Yeah.
Yeah. Serial killer spree movie.
Mental breakout. That's what we should call it, because mental hospital breakout patients. I don't know. So that's what the movie is. That's what the movie's about. So, Tim, I guess I'm asking the question. Tim, did you enjoy Leatherface?
No, of course not. This movie is pure garbage. I don't understand why it sat on the shelf for years instead of just being tossed into a trash can. This freaking sucked much.
I want to tell the audience something. I mentioned before I was about to watch. Tim watched it first before I did, and I said, "Oh, I'm about to start Leatherface," and Tim sent a message to me saying, I think you might like it." Deadpan serious. Deadpan serious. There was no lol. There was no smiley face or anything like that. It was deadpan serious.
I mean, to be fair, if you watch most of the episodes of this show, you'll see that you like a lot of bad stuff. So I was like, oof, this is rough, but I don't know, Pete might like it.
Coming from the fan of The Boy and Leprechaun.
Yes, good movies. Now,
no. Funny thing is, Tim, I actually don't hate this as much as you do.
Oh God, here we go.
No, I don't like it. It's not a good movie. I actually think it's a bad movie that is elevated by 2 or 3 things a little bit.
Okay.
One is it's mostly got a pretty decent cast.
Yeah.
I think the actor playing Jeb / Jackson, which is what his changed name is, which, I mean, I suppose I shouldn't have said that in spoiler-free section, actually. Oh, dear. I'm going to go back and put a full spoiler warning in at the start, just so I don't have to worry about spoilers. But it's really obvious, though. It's obvious the one that's kind of nice and not as crazy as the other ones is going to turn out to be Leatherface. It's so obvious. But anyway.
I thought it was going to be... Oh, we're talking spoilers now, right?
Okay, sure, yeah, we're talking spoilers.
Okay. Well, I mean, I thought it was going to be the other guy just because the other guy looks like Leatherface. Like, Leatherface
big fat guy? Big long hair?
Yeah, he has big long hair. He's kind of a fatter guy. So I mean, maybe if I was thinking of this movie on a deeper level, yeah, I probably could have seen the strings, but it was just so dumb that I was like, I don't know.
Right. So,
I
anyway.
was actually kind of shocked when that guy died.
So casts are not bad. Obviously, we mentioned Lila Taylor, who's quite good. Stephen Dorff, who showed up in what was that movie, Jackals, we did like last month. So he's making the rounds in these. I mean, he's okay. His character's kind of whatever. The nurse Lizzie, like her actress Vanessa Grass. She's pretty good. She actually is. Again, she's probably much better than this movie deserves, which goes for a lot of the cast. Yeah. What's funny about her though, as I kept like once she had her hair down, I was like, man, she looks a lot like Melissa Benoist. Like I was getting that vibe from her like constantly.
I don't know who that is.
Supergirl.
Oh, okay. Oh, cool.
Yeah, because she before she was Supergirl, she had dark hair, so she looks a lot like her with dark hair. I was getting that vibe from her a lot.
Movie magic, man.
I know, right?
Now, I think what's surprising to me isn't so much the cast as the directors, because they're. I think it was two people.
Yeah, are they good? Do you know who they are?
They did Inside, I believe, which is a French horror film we haven't done on the show, but that
I've not seen that yet. That's a good point.
I would go as far as to say that is a terrific film. That is really, really good.
Look at you spoiling that episode when we do it now, Tim. They're going to remember this, and then when I ask you the question, they're going to be like, oh, we know the answer. Tim loves this movie. Absolute nonsense.
We're in the spoiler territory, so.
Spoilers for this movie. So, what was I going to say? So it's the cast mostly pretty good, right? And all the directors is kind of a negative because you'd expect it to be good then if the good directors are good.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a reverse thing. Other thing, some of the kills are actually pretty decent. Like I feel like obviously they're not chainsaw kill. In fact, you know what? I'll give it this. It keeps the whole only one chainsaw kill.
Yeah.
Oh no! Wait, no. There's two. There's two
in the beginning and the.
No, not the beginning. The beginning doesn't count because that's not how he dies. He dies with a hammer.
Oh, okay.
Because the kid can't do it, and then the brother or the dad or whatever comes up and does it with a hammer.
Okay. Oh, all right. So you have the ending. What was the other one? I forget.
The sheriff, the cop.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That was when they first used the chainsaw, and then obviously the endings when he goes out and gets Lizzie, who I liked as a character and wanted to survive, but of course this is Leatherface, the origin, so he has to turn into the killer by the end. So I guess that's how we do it.
To be fair, she kind of had plenty of time to like run away.
Well, suppose she liked him and he didn't seem that bad. That's actually one of my biggest problems with the movie is that his arc where he goes from being a pretty decent person to Leatherface. I don't buy. He just it's like one scene to the next he just starts acting kind of dark and like he might snap at any moment. Up until that point he was actually kind of okay. It just kind of happens. But I knew Tim,
more.
I'm on positives. Stop it. Let me finish these. I've had like 3 positives to say, and it's been like 10 minutes because you keep extending it out with criticisms. You can get to the criticisms in a minute. All right. So cast kills like there's one where like the big guy like smashes the doctor's head through a window, and it's like really kind of brutal. And there's a few other things like that where the deaths are okay. Like I kind of was expecting it to. I don't know, just kind of shy away from that because it was like direct to video or whatever, but it's fine. And then the other positive I'll give it is that it doesn't look that bad visually. Like it doesn't look like the remake. It looks like an actual movie. Yeah, like
like it doesn't feel like this like kind of gross Hollywood manufactured griminess. Like it seems like they went to real locations and so.
Exactly. Yeah, it has that going for it. So that's my positives. So it's not a complete and utter train wreck. Like I think you're calling it garbage, and what I think is very bad, I wouldn't put it necessarily under other garbage movies we've done. But we'll compare it to the end. So take us away, Tim. You've got stuff to get off your chest. By all means.
Oh Jesus Christ! I feel like I was gonna say something really specific, but but then you went on a tirade.
No! I stopped you from doing a tirade so I could finish my point. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, I mean, one thing I do kind of want to start off with is, and I messaged you about this too. Is like I was going in with not like really any specific expectations. Like I think we had heard a few bad reviews, but I wasn't like, oh boy, here we go. I was actually like a little excited to watch this. And then like within literally the first 2 minutes, I was like, wow, okay, no, it's
yeah.
gonna be so bad. Just that opening scene where like everyone is around the table and like they're all overacting so crazy, like not like like kind of like the main characters, but just like the other people around there, just like oh, and like clapping, and like even the guy that cuts the cake, like he's cutting the cake like you would like kill a person. And then like I'm like, wow, there's like zero subtlety in this movie at all. Like within just the first few minutes, it's like in your face, like, oh, look how crazy and demented these people are. And it's like, this is so stupid.
And that didn't bother me so much. Like, I didn't like it, but it's like this could end up being a fun, goofy movie, depending like where it goes after this kind of thing.
Yeah.
What kind of was my first big warning sign though was the next scene where it's like this young couple who are driving, and then young Leatherface like sort of lures them out
dressed like a pig
out to a barn where these family are waiting to kill them and whatnot. But or the girl, at least, not the guy. The guy survives, but the way that was filmed, the way they're driving along, they're flirting, and then they see him on the road out of nowhere, and then they stop, and the way it was cut, it was like they didn't know how to do suspense, and everything was going too fast. Like, it was just moving too fast in the scene itself to actually build any kind of mystery or dread or, oh, this is creepy. Which, by the way, I want to point out the girl, because she follows Leatherface thinking, oh, it's a little kid who needs help. He's on his own. He's wearing a pig's head for some reason. He needs my help. So she chases after them into this barn, and he's hiding, and she's kind of looking, and she says one of the weirdest lines of dialogue that I can't fathom why this was written the way it was. She didn't say, I'm not going to hurt you. She didn't say that. That's a normal thing you'd expect to say. If the kid's scared, you say, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm here to help. She says, I'm not going to touch you.
Okay.
See, now I'm thinking, like, deep down you are a molester because you phrased it like that. That is weird. I don't think he's worried about sexual assault. He's worried, if he is, I mean, we know he's not, he's learner, but if the kid is worried about something, he's worried about just, whatever. What do the kids worry about with adults? Pain.
Yeah.
Scary people, I don't know.
Spanking or something, I don't know.
See, now you're back onto the molestation part.
Well, no.
Let's move on quickly.
Yeah.
From this point. So the sheriff's like pissed at this family, the Sawyer family. He wants.
So was that girl supposed to be like the sheriff's daughter?
Yeah, she was.
Okay, so that's why he was like so pissed.
That was really obvious, Tim. Why? How did you not get that?
I don't know. I don't have a good memory. But it's not. It's like it's so. What? Why are they like? I like in the in the original, it's this family, but they're in their own like small deserted town, and they're taking hitchhikers and stuff that people aren't gonna really be able to tie back to them or to be missed, but. This is just like, what? They're just like out in the open, just taking like everyone that like the townspeople know and stuff. Like, if they are going to be doing this stuff, like they can't be at least a little smarter about it.
No, that's a fair point. So of course we cut ahead after the kids have been taken, and we meet our main character Lizzie, who's this nurse, and she's a bit friendly with some of the mental patients, even though she's told by the doctor that. No, they're dangerous, don't get too close to them, blah, 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 blah. Which, by the way, this doctor is so two-dimensional. He's a cartoon villain. He is immediately just so evil and wants to experiment on them and all sorts of crazy things. But then Mother Leatherface ends up causing a scene because she's trying to see her son again, and it starts like a riot, and we get like lots of brutal killings. There's like the other nurse that's with our main character, Lizzie, like this other random patient starts like stabbing her in the tongue. And it's like really brutal. Yeah, it's like that's what I'm saying. Some of the murders are actually kind of inventive.
Those were like a few of the scenes like this were the only times where I felt like, oh, this is I can see this coming from this director. But yeah, everything else just felt like really like I don't know, strange.
Because actually, before this, I actually thought the whole thing was going to be set in the hospital, and then I sort of chuckled and went, "Wait, both the new Chucky and the new Texas Chainsaw are both set in a mental hospital? That's weird."
You know what? Actually, I kind of wonder if it's possible if this was supposed to be a different movie, like, because obviously this happens in Hollywood all the time where you have a script and then to try to sell it, someone like was like, all right, well, let's all right, now this is Annabelle, or now this is
To be fair, if you like, when you think about the actual Texas Chainsaw parts, it's basically the opening and then the last like 10 minutes. The rest of it you could theoretically have had without any hint that there was going to be a Leatherface. It's not like the guy who turns out to be Leatherface is like keeps like looking over at chainsaws and is like, oh, for some reason I really want to pick up that chainsaw.
He's like running out of the mental hospital, and then he just looks back and sees a chainsaw and just goes, next time. And then he keeps running.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, you may be right. You may be right. It might be a different. It may have been a different script. It was just a random movie, and they said, "Oh, we can apply Leatherface to this." And even though you can't really,
you can't.
It feels
like
that's the
like
thing.
two executives, and one is just like, "Hey, where does this movie take place again? Texas? All right, cool. All right, I know what to do with it now."
I don't know. That'll be one of the things that change. So all we have to do is put it in Texas.
Yeah.
Set it in 1965, so it's before the original, and that's like I guess I'll okay. One, this is a minor compliment, but I do like that they made the house, like, at least the main part with the stairs and the metal door, like that looks like the original movie. Like it's like, okay, this is the house. Yeah. So yeah. So obviously it's a Sawyer family, like the original and Texas Chainsaw 3D, because they have the original name as opposed to the remake continuity, which has the Who It name.
At this point, I'm like so confused about who Leatherface is supposed to be, because I'm like, all right, we have the Sawyers, we have the Hewitts, and then we have this movie where it's Jed or Jackson or Bud or what. Like it's
At least the surnames does sync up with the last movie actually, which I didn't think any of it would sync up, but because remember the Sawyer, and then she gets married, which by the way that was really weird. That she comes to try and like see her son, and she's got a lawyer, and it's like, oh, it's been 10 years, I want to see my son, we've got a court order, and the doctor kind of like, oh, you need another court order for this thing, but he's like, oh yeah, you might have married into money, but you're still white trash, or whatever the sentence was. And I thought, okay, fine, but the rest of the movie, like, she never like goes to another house where she's clearly better off or has more money. We never see her husband, I don't think. Nope. So how exactly? But the name she has, like, she's now Mrs. I can't remember what the name is now though. But remember in Texas Chainsaw 3D, it was that other name, that it was their house. They were the rich side of the family. And then later on they'd say, oh, you are one of these, and she's, no, I'm a Sawyer. Like, so that was the two names. So at least that actually syncs up with the rest of the movies.
Not bad.
Admittedly, the family in this don't sync up at all with the original.
No.
So
like where I don't think they had like the grandpa or
there was an older guy who I think is meant to grow into the grandpa, just because it's it's 10 years earlier. He's a bit better looking, I guess.
I don't know if the one guy in the beginning that's like the kind of the older kid that's like cutting the cake all crazy. I don't know, maybe if that's supposed to be Chop Top, possibly.
Yeah, it might be.
But it definitely didn't feel like, oh, this is that character and this is that guy or whatever.
Yeah, certainly the dad. Like, I was like, who's the dad? Like, he's not here at all. I
think, to be fair though, and I hate letting this movie slide on anything, but I do think the family has always been kind of in flux in the movies. Like, there's been a few consistents, like the grandpa has always kind of been there, but
1 to 2 is the only one where it's like there's like a new brother in 2, but other than that, it's the same. It's the same dad, it's the same grandpa. It's like it feels like it's the same unit. But once we hit 3, and since then, it's been just completely all over the place every single time.
Which I guess is fine, but I don't know. It feels like for a prequel, though, maybe you shouldn't do that. Like, I don't know.
No, I agree. So Jeb / Jackson seems to actually try to protect Lizzie whilst all this, killing's going on. they get out, but the crazy, because we're introduced to a few characters in the hospital before this escape happens. We have this crazy couple, Clarice and Ike, who are both completely nuts, and they kidnap essentially Lizzie and Jackson, along with the big guy Bud, who goes willingly, and that becomes a little group, and they're kind of on the run, and they're kind of holding her and Jeb captive, and constantly threatening them. I guess we didn't need to have the weird sex scene where we see that Clarice is all burned down the front, so she's got like all this scarring and burned and whatever. There's a lot of weird stuff where Ike might try and rape Lizzie. Like they hint at that a bunch of times, and it always doesn't happen. Like, you know, Jeb usually jumps in and like plays the hero, but he just kind of like quickly flips at one point where because it's before Bud dies. Bud's the thing that really sets him off, but it's just before Bud dies where he just suddenly changes for whatever reason. But yeah, of course it's his idea at one point to hide 3 people in a carcass, this giant carcass. And you see his eye looking through the old eye hole that whoever this whatever this animal was, and I'm like, oh, that's very Leatherface foreshadowing, because he's looking through a skin mask. Oh.
What did you think about the diner scene?
So after they've been on the run for a little bit, they're hungry. They see a diner, and Jackson points out, "Oh, we don't have any money." And the crazy couple are like, "Oh, who cares? We'll wing it. It's fine."
Yeah.
And you kind of get the impression they're probably just going to eat and then kill everyone who's there. Like that's the plan. So they go down, and we cut into the diner, and like I wasn't expecting them to actually have like a diner scene where they are just sitting eating for a while, and Jackson's all, "Oh, I wish I was someone different," and like he almost has a heart to heart with Lizzie for like a brief moment, but then the crazy couple decide to like just start like killing people. They grab some guy's gun, they stab someone in the neck, they kill half the people in the room. It's very
see, what I don't really like about this is I don't like that these people are like weird, like super villains. Like this is straight up like an entire restaurant. Like no one, like can put up a fight or even really has like it'd be one thing if they, kill some people and are able to get away with it. But it's like they take out this entire room and, they kind of joke about it, but it's like, this is Texas, people have guns and stuff. Like, that no one is able to stand up to these guys. It
oddly felt like their version of the scene from Pulp Fiction.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
That's kind of what they were going for here, except that it's a lot more brutal because they actually kill a bunch of people.
Yeah.
She shotguns someone in the face, and all the rest of it.
Yeah, I think it's a stupid scene, but I mean, like you kind of mentioned earlier, the gore in it is good. Like when she does stab the lady, it looks good. It's nice big buckets of blood, spurting out. But...
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think from there, like the weird plot point is that the sheriff actually starts to get really vicious. Like he happily just kills when he catches Clarice. He just shoots her in the head, point blank.
Yeah.
He's not looking for justice. He's looking for vengeance. He wants to just kill all these assholes. Which maybe puts like Lizzie in danger because he might not realize that she's a thing. But that's the thing. So eventually the family get a hold of them, and they kind of like have them held captive. And it almost looked like the sheriff was going to maybe kill Lizzie as well, like for some reason. But then they're held captive in the house, and they start sneaking around, and they actually try to help each other. But then they get caught, and the sheriff gets killed. And this is when they give so Leatherface gets shot at one point. He gets shot in the face, and it's like down his cheek, and it's all kind of like ripped open. And his mother like stitches it up and then gives him this like leather harness, which is just like it's more like just some leather straps, but and kind of holds it together like that. But all of a sudden he's basically acting like Leatherface, and she gives him the chainsaw, and he chainsaws the cop, and then she runs for it. We get a chase scene, and then he catches up with her, and she's like, "No, you're not like this. Like you're better than this, Jackson. You're a better person." And his mother's behind him shouting at him, "No, you're one of us. You're family. You make your family proud." And he revs up the chainsaw and decapitates her, and that's the end of the movie. Well, it's not. There was one more little scene where he's stitching a Leatherface mask, and we see it just for the brief little second at the end. He puts it on, and that's
was that supposed to be her face?
The mouth was. It may not have been the whole thing. but it was her mouth for sure.
That's why, like, I don't, because I'm not sure if they're kind of trying to tie it into, like, I don't think it's so much in the first movie, but like in the later movies, there's kind of like a like cross-dressing aspect to Leatherface. So I don't know if they were saying like this is part of it, that because he took a woman's face that he's wearing, and that's why he's like putting on like makeup and stuff at the end. I don't know if that was trying to, I don't know, say anything about that.
I don't know if it's saying anything. I think it's just, this is something that happened later on, so we'll do it here. I think like, I think this movie's a bad idea from the get-go. I don't want to see an origin of Leatherface. I don't really like the idea that he was a better person before and then turned into this, because anytime I've watched this Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I always had the feeling he's been like this since he was a little kid, because this is how he was raised. That's how it feels. So this movie, it feels like you're shoehorning in this extra little character journey just so you can have this movie, but it doesn't feel right for the character, and the journey itself isn't viable because he just switches like halfway through the movie. So
yeah, I don't understand what they want us to feel like. Do they want us to have like sympathy for Leatherface because like, oh look, like at all this stuff he had to go through? But I mean, if anything, that makes me feel like, oh no, he's a bigger piece of shit, because we actually see that he knows right from wrong. He's not this like amoral evil being that was raised like that. It's like, oh no, he actually knows what it's like to be a good person, and basically chose not to.
I'll give it one thing. Okay, I've got a few things, but this is kind of a weird kind of semi-complaint, semi-compliment, is that despite the fact that I didn't really enjoy it and I didn't like the plot or what it was doing and didn't buy the character arc, it did oddly go in kind of quick. Like, before I realised, I've only got 20 minutes left.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's kind of a double-edged sword, because I think part of the reason why I felt that is because I thought, we can't be near the end yet. The plot's only starting to get going. Yeah.
Well, it feels very, I guess, unfocused, because it's like, it's starting off in this mental hospital, and you kind of think like, oh, okay, maybe this might be like what the movie's about, and then it's like, oh no, now it's like an on-the-run hostage thing. And then you kind of figure like, all right, well, that's what this movie is then. But then, I mean, even that loses its way. And then it's like, oh, now we're back to kind of, what we, I guess, traditionally know, like the family.
Yeah, and the house and the sneaking around and the chainsaw, of course. Like, all these things. And I think there was a point, actually, like, it got to, like, there was, like, maybe 20 minutes left of the movie. And I'm like, how is he going to be Leatherface in 20 minutes? I don't buy this. And then it just becomes Leatherface, and I'm like, I don't buy it. Like, it didn't work. So, so I mean, I don't think it's a complete train wreck because of all the things I said. Cast, it looks okay, some good gore and kills. I think what it lacks though is a reason to exist, and I will happily take another sort of sequel that doesn't have much of a reason either, but is at least just Leatherface killing a bunch of people. Because here's the thing, this movie's called Leatherface. You don't really get any Leatherface, not until the final couple of minutes, and even then it's like this weird other mask, and he's like kind of not quite himself yet. It's like, at least if you give me Leatherface killing a bunch of people for the whole movie, I'll be like, okay, it's just a dumb slasher movie, that's fine. But instead, we get this.
I think it's when you're talking about these franchise movies, I feel like people think that they have to have a big reason or a point. Like a lot of the times where it's like, honestly, when you have a movie that's like, 6 or 7 movies in, we like these characters, and a lot of times, like, it's cool if you can do something interesting with them, but also, sometimes we can just be pleased by just having Jason or Freddy, just kill a bunch of people. You don't have to have like we can't just make another movie doing the same thing. Like, we have to show their origin or do something we haven't done before.
And that's the weird thing. I think the last one kind of accomplished that. It wasn't necessarily the smartest thing in the world, but it did something different, and I was like, that was kind of a fun idea. Whereas this one, they go down the prequel route, and the end result is a kind of not terrible, but really bland to bad movie that doesn't even have Leatherface in it for most of it, and you're just kind of like, okay, this isn't really a Texas Chainsaw movie. I mean, like, sure, I'd argue this is probably better than like the beginning or even the remake, but those were more like a Texas Chainsaw movie, so it's kind of a weird thing in the middle, and it's odd, and it feels misguided. And you might be right. Maybe this started as a different movie, and then they shoehorned in the Texas Chainsaw parts. But as it is, it's just kind of. I don't think it's offensively bad, but it's not.
Oh, I disagree.
I don't think it's offensively bad. I think this falls into just this is really bad, but not like I don't think it's in the Bye Bye Man or even Texas.
Well, sure.
Even Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning. I think that's a worse movie.
Yeah, I don't think anything can top that as the worst in the series. But yeah, I don't think this does that much better.
I like it more than the remake as well.
I would disagree with that.
Like is a weird word, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, like I'm not crazy about the remake, but I actually think it's a lot better than this.
I don't know. I don't know about that. Maybe if I had to watch it a second time, maybe I'd be even more annoyed. But
I think at least with the remake, though, at least it has a point, and at least it's it probably doesn't need to exist, but. I don't know. It didn't frustrate me as much as this one.
Honestly, the way that movie looks bothers me way more than this looks at least like a decent looking movie. Not in a great way, just in that it doesn't look like shit. So it gets a kind of a point for that. So
yeah, there are two death scenes I want to talk about real quick.
Go on.
So I don't really have much to say about this, but I just want to point out that I did. I think that it was pretty vicious was when when Bud kills Ike, he hits him over the back of the head, then puts him on his teeth on a rock, and then stomps his head in. I just thought that was pretty brutal. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. It's pretty brutal. What you want me to add? Yeah.
But then the other death scene though that made me laugh really hard was when they throw Iron Fist into the pig pen, which now I know that like pigs will pretty much eat anything, and I think they will eat human flesh and everything, but you can't just throw a human in there and then the pigs will go and eat them. Like they would have to be I think like pretty like starved up, or I don't know, maybe if they're trained or something, maybe they would do it. But it's just like they throw them in there and like right away the pigs are like, what? And like just running over to like eat them.
Yeah, that's fair. But by the way, Iron Fist's character, he's the deputy to the sheriff, and he's like, the sheriff's going like off the deep end, he's killing people. You feel like Iron Fist is meant to be like the sensible one who's going to be the actual hero, and you think he's going to be. Then it turns out he's actually just double crossing the sheriff to get a payday from the Sawyer family. For his location, they're paying him off. So even he's scum. They're all scum. Poor Lizzie, the one innocent character in this whole goddamn movie, just goes through hell and then gets killed at the end. It's actually kind of a shame.
Yeah, at least give me some kind of release with her where like the one character that's likable and nothing good at all happens to her.
No, that is absolutely it.
It's this other thing too where it's like every character is just this awful person dialed up to 11. Like it, like you said, like the doctor at the mental institution is like a super villain, and like the cop is like crazy and on the spree, and it's like it's just this weird world where, all right, is no one a normal person in this? Like it's one thing to have this crazy family, but everyone else they run into is also insane.
Yeah, it's hard to like. It almost normalizes the family because there's no like base setting. Like it really does feel like Lizzie's the only normal character, and every single one else is just a complete lunatic or morally corrupt to the core. And it's just like, where's the baseline? If there's no baseline, if the world around the family seems just as crazy, then there's no. Because that's actually one of the things, by not having a group of victims like most of the movies do, it is just the one character, and because of that, it feels kind of like, oh well, she is in a nightmare right now. Even before stuff starts happening in the mental hospital, she's still surrounded by nothing but people who, and I'm including the doctor and the orderlies in this. They all seem kind of intimidating and mean, and it's just like, well, this is going to be delightful watch. So no, I mean, I guess that's Leatherface. Unless you have any final points before we rate this, Tim.
I don't know. I can't think of anything else. It's I did not have fun. And unfortunately, even on like, the bad movie scale where it's like, oh yeah, this was awful, but oh, it was so, cheesy that I was laughing and having a good time. Like, as crappy as it was, like something like Wish Upon, that we did a little earlier, like horrible movie, but at least I got some enjoyment at laughing at how stupid and cheesy it was. But this didn't really have anything like that, and it just really annoys me when it's like, ugh, you're a bad movie, but you're not even like bad enough that I can, and I'll get some pleasure out of it.
I'm glad Iron Fist died, because I hate that show.
Yeah, I haven't watched. I watched like maybe 2 or so episodes.
He is terrible on that show. So watching him die was a delightful treat that I was perhaps not expecting. So
I'm glad that you mentioned it was Iron Fist too, because I knew he looked familiar, but I was like, I don't know where I know this guy from, but he's from somewhere.
Oh, as soon as his face appeared, actually, the guy who played Jeb/Jackson, I literally just saw him in an episode of Mindhunter this week, because the show's on Netflix. He's in an episode of that.
Oh.
Also playing a serial killer, funnily enough. He's getting typecast.
Oh.
Oh well. So Tim, I guess it's that time. What would you rate Leatherface out of 10?
I really didn't enjoy it. I'm gonna give it a 3. I think it was pretty bad. A few of the kills were good, but other than that, there really wasn't anything. I mean, even like the stuff you bring up, like, yeah, I agree that the cast was good, but what the hell do I care about a good cast if it's in a shitty movie? You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't really, I don't know, help raise it that much, in my opinion. Like, it's better than watching terrible people, sure, but I don't know, like, who cares? Like, all right, it looks good, but why do I want to look at something good that's not good?
I am going a bit higher than you, but not by much. Right. I'm going to go with the 4.5.
Jesus Christ, that's
4.5 is not that high, Tim. Calm down.
For this movie, it is.
It's not that high. I don't think it's absolute garbage like you do. I think it is painfully... I think it's misguided. I think there's positives, and I think the overall feeling I have of it is extremely mediocre. Extremely so. Which is a really weird, pair of words to, because mediocre is kind of the lack of extreme. But it's kind of in that really mundane kind of... Like,
I'll tell you what probably hurt it a lot too is maybe us both being so surprised at how much we liked Texas Chainsaw 3D, and then like immediately not immediately, but watching this as the next Texas movie, like, we were on a little bit of a high, because we kind of watched 2 or 3 bad Texas Chainsaw movies in a row, and then got to a really good one, and then it's like, oh yeah, now we're kind of high on Texas Chainsaw again, and then to have this, I don't know, if we watched it right after Beginnings instead, maybe it might have seemed a little higher. But
we would be in a dire mental state ourselves after I've watched those 2 back to back.
I still say Beginnings is the worst, but I think this is a second.
Well,
that.
You know what? We rated them, we ranked them when we finished them as it was, but I think it's worth doing it again with the new entry. Yeah. So, if I'm ranking them now, first one, then 3D, which may be controversial, but I really have fun with 3D, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4, then remake. Sorry, no, I've missed this one. I forgot that I had this new one to add. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, so 1, then 3D, then 2, then 3, then 4, then Leatherface, then remake, then beginning, then last place. That's my rankings.
Okay. So let's see. I would probably go 1, obviously. But then I think I would do 3D as well, and then 2, which I think 2 and 3D for me are pretty closely tied. Like I think 1 is by and above the clear number 1 spot, but 2 and 3D might be slightly interchangeable for me. But then after that, I'd probably go. See, this is where it gets a little tough. I forget what I did the first time. I might go. Maybe.
I think you had 4 next. I seem to recall 4, but
I think because what I think is actually, here's what I'm going to do. This might be controversial, but I'm going to go 4 because of kind of the sheer craziness of it. And then I'll actually probably go remake and then 3 because I don't think the remake should exist, but I think it's like competently done.
I like 3 more than remake, definitely. No, this is madness. This is mad talk.
I think 3 is just kind of boring. Like it is,
but it's still better than the remake.
I don't know. I don't think the remake is that bad.
Ken Faree's in it. That's just points right away.
I don't even know who that is.
From Dawn of the Dead. God damn it. This is...
Oh, you're talking about the 3rd movie. I thought you were talking about the remake.
No, the 3rd movie.
Yeah, he was cool in it. But then obviously Leatherface in the beginnings.
Yes. Aye, the beginning's still in last place. So hey, at least it's not the worst of the bunch. That's nice.
Yeah.
So there you go. That is Leatherface. So obviously we've still got the new Saw movie to do. That's coming later in the month. Well, that could end up being better than this, though. That could end up being not the winner. I feel like Chucky's won the new entries of the 3 franchises because
without a doubt.
Chucky was actually a pretty good movie. So, yeah. But here we are. So that has been Leatherface, the 8th film in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, and the 2nd prequel of those 8 movies. Which is really annoying. Like, just do a sequel, just to have Leatherface killing a bunch of people. That's all I want.
Yeah.
That's all I want.
So much to ask for.
All right. I guess we're done. I guess we can move on with the life. So that has been Leatherface. Let us know what you thought of the movie. If you've seen it in the comments below, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on Twitter at mild_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/milefuzztv. You can do that over there. Get a bunch of bonuses. Remember, we're doing a bunch of extra episodes for October, the Octoberthon, of course. Including, of course, top 100 horror movies, which we're doing in 4 parts. The first 2 are up. The 3rd one will be up soon. It's every Tuesday, obviously ending on Halloween itself, so you can look forward to that. But that is. So thank you once again for watching. Keep watching scary movies, guys, and we will see you next time.